All right, gents. Week 4, it's in the books. We had a big matchup this past week, and it resulted in a real stomping. So we're gonna hit the tables and let's see the damage. And look here, we got the Cleveland Steamers at number 1, up 100 points on the next closest competitor. So that's a real lead right there. Folks are gonna be clawing at it the rest of the way. We can see Hammy from a half decade ago jumps up into second place. Not by a lot, but he's there with the points scored. Followed by Bone, who dropped from first down to third this past week with the loss. But I think we're seeing, as buys really start to kick in now, top tier is the top three right here, who are going to be jostling for first and hoping solidifying playoff positions there. We got still at 3-1. It's where the traffic jam is. We got Chan sitting on the bubble, followed by Sogat, who is right behind him on his heels. Not too many points behind, but I also note here MJ, 2-2, sitting at 500 after last week's win, but he's more points than both these guys. So he just needs to keep pace, and then naturally he'll overwhelm. And then down here at the bottom, least amount of points scored, no wins yet. We got Mike. And with Mike, we're probably about 5 weeks away from him forgetting to set his lineup, and he's starting the Vikings defense while they're out on a bye. So we got that to look forward to. Thanks, Mike. We're going to take a look now at the matchup of the week. Last week, we had this game between Sogat and TD. We take a look here. I'm going to break it down for you. We had Sogat, who had an awesome 1 p.m. Start time games with Andrew Luck, Zeke blowing up, and James White. Well over 100 points between the three of those guys. So Sogat jumped out to a ginormous lead. But he did get some zonkers here from O.J. Howard, who didn't get any points within the game. The Browns' defense kind of barfed it up in the late games. And then we also had Josh Allen here put up a real stinker after having a previous good week. No, David Johnson did pretty well here in the late games as well. Look over at TD on Sunday. He had Phillip Rivers come through in the late games there, Giovanni Bernard in the early games, and just really solid showings throughout the day by Jarvis Landry, Brown in the evening, Adams much earlier in the day. So by the end of Sunday, we were staring at TD down by 5 points with Case Keenum starting a quarterback, significantly more points than Demaryius Thomas. So Sogat up by 5 points, projected to lose. We walk into Monday night, and Demaryius Thomas isn't putting on much of a showing, but neither is Case Keenum. And tell you what, Case Keenum not throwing any touchdowns was a killer. Anything from him would have had TD eclipsing Sogat here. He won by less than 2 points. So if you take it back and look at Case Keenum throwing one interception, that was the difference in this matchup. And with that, Sogat, as we saw, jumps up. He is in 5th spot here, 3-1, and TD's looking up at everyone else there at 3-1. We're going to take a look now at transactions from the week. We're going to start here with the only waiver wire pickup of the week. B, picking up Yeldon, dropping Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick losing his starting job. Fitz magic is over. They figured out his tricks. Guess they got enough tape on him and that grizzly beard. But his time looks to be done until Mr. Crablegs Winston comes in and probably stinks up the joint himself, and Fitzpatrick will find himself back in there. So everyone keep an eye out for that. I got to say, though, TJ Yeldon was legit a waiver pickup. Great pickup by B. Needing to make a move, and Yeldon, I know he's hurt right now. Questionable's coming into the week. But that is a running offense, and you got to have Yeldon if he's available out there. So great pickup by B. You take a look at later in the morning, um, not on waivers, but OJ Howard out. Sogot picks up Vance McDonald, looking to stiff arm the competition in here. And then probably an upgrade on defense here with the Titans D. They've been just turning it up with Vrabel at head coach, a real defensive minded guy. They got talent there on defense and just really sound. Probably better than having the Cleveland Browns, who really just have a pass rush and a good corner at this point. I don't know what Chan's doing here with Willie Snead. Not a fan. I can't tell what Baltimore's trying to do week over week. I really just try to stay away from them because they're about as mysterious as the New England Patriots when it comes to their offense, and uh, they got a much more below average quarterback at the helm there. So I'm not sure I like that move. Um, but the move I will say I love, Jordy Nelson, definitely on my watch list. MJ scoops him up, drops Ted Ginn Jr., probably the right move after the Saints wide receiver hasn't really shown much since week one. Jordy Nelson's really come on strong. He's new in that team, so he's really starting to pick it up, the repertoire with Carr, and it's a throw in offense behind Papa Gruden. So Jordy Nelson, I think, is a strong pickup there. Uh, B is still trying to solve his tight end woes, picking up Njoku, dropping Watson. Um, we'll see if that makes any difference, but that's probably negligible. Now we're going to take a look at the matchups for the week, and we're starting off here with Hammy from a half decade ago versus uh, Sonny Chan. And then looking at the matchups, I'll say on the Hammy side of the house, no buys, so he's at full strength. He's got a strong showing here. Again, one of those top tier teams. Chan right behind him in fourth. Um, so on the Hammy side, the guy who I like to out project his own projections here, I'd even bump it up further with Matty Ryan. Going into Pittsburgh, that offense is going to be throwing the ball. That Pittsburgh defense, porous, especially on the passing secondary when it comes in. That's Matty Ryan. I see him slicing and dicing that defense and having a big game there. On Chan's side of the house, likewise, I got to say Ridley should absolutely outperform that projected 10 points. He's really starting to find his groove with Matty Ice, and he's going to way outperform that. However, the difference in this matchup I see all comes down to Thursday night. You got Tom Brady in the Indianapolis versus the Indianapolis Colts, and you got Gronk there as well. Uh, Short week. I don't expect Gronk to do much. Um, this is just one of those matchups where I'd be surprised if he sees, over 50% of the snaps. Um, just it leaves him really injury prone with coming in there on the short week. And Tom Brady, I mean, I don't know. I see this more as like a ground and pound control of the game. Thursday night, they have a lot less time to prepare. I'm sure the Pats will win, but I don't think it's going to be pretty, and I don't think it's going to be one where Tom Brady is lighting the world on fire. So that's what I see the difference in this matchup being. I expect both those guys on the Patriots side to underwhelm. We should know by the end of the day Thursday who's going to win this matchup, and I'm throwing it over to Hammy. Next matchup we got here is TD versus Shizzy. Two of the folks near the barrel, the bottom of the barrel here, and in this matchup, TD's got a tough one. We see right off the gates here with um, starting a guy on a bye. He's got to find a tight end this week. We just saw B had picked up Njoku. We'll see what TD does. It looks like he'll be scrapping the bottom of the barrel to pick up just a tight end there. And he's got so many questionables. It's going to be a tough week for him, kind of watching how the team goes. But I got faith with TD. I'm a big fan of Rivers. Have been all year. I think he's going to outproject that. But really, where I want to throw it, Antonio Brown. Likewise, Pittsburgh Steelers at home. Antonio Brown coming off a disappointing performance against Baltimore. Steelers are going to be hungry. When this team zigs, next thing you know, they're zagging. They have a really crappy week. You count them out, and then boom, all of a sudden they're back in it. It's a very emotional locker room. I got to say, I think Antonio Brown and the Pittsburgh Steelers also put up here as well. On Shizzy's side of the house, I like Ryan Tannehill at Cincinnati. Tannehill's put up solid numbers so far this year, and I think that they can kind of compete with Cincinnati at Cincinnati in this one. I expect this one to be, 27-24 type of game. A few touchdowns. I'd throw two Tannehill's way, but I wouldn't be surprised for him to get even more than that. And I think he's going to outproject this number. Having said that, I think Shizzy gets his first win of the year. This is it. I'm throwing it behind you, Shizzy. TD's going to work out this bye. It's still going to be a close matchup. I'd also note each one of these guys got running backs on the way out. Giovanni Bernard, not only is he hurt, but Mixon's coming back. Jamal Williams looks like he's going to be kind of running second fiddle to Aaron there at running back. And I think both those guys are on their way out. I wouldn't be surprised if each of these guys replace them in their starting lineup before the games actually start. Taking a look at the third game, we got B versus Sogot. Within this one here, I got to say I'm on B side of the house. I love Jeffrey to outperform these numbers. Against Minnesota, I think he's got it coming in here. Him and Wentz have a repertoire. This should be a good matchup to watch Jeffries in, so I like him to outperform there. And on Sogut's side of the house, I'm going to say I project his quarterbacks, Newton, Luck, and his running backs, Johnson and Elliott, to underperform, and I wouldn't even be surprised for Carson at his number here to underperform. I don't think either one of these guys hit the 20s. I don't think Carson is hitting this number against the Rams either. I think he's single digits. I think someone's looking at these projections here, and they're just looking at names. I don't think they're looking at the matchups here. I think this is a tough one. If anyone's going to hit their numbers, it's going to be Luck against New England, just having to come back here. But I don't think this is a matchup for any of these guys, and I don't think Sogut's even hitting these numbers. So having said that, B, you got it in the upset. All right, take a look at the fourth matchup here. We got MJ versus Josh. This is a pretty good one here because we're staring at, top 5 contenders right now where we're looking. So I'd also note, of the projected points, MJ's got the second most projected points this week, and Bone has third. So real potential here for some heavy hitters, and one matchup to keep an eye on in the league. With that, on MJ's side, I'll say I'm a huge fan of Bortles and James here. Against Kansas City, I think he's starting to come onto his own. The Kansas City defense, coming off a short week, I could see them continuing to be on the schneid there. I mean, Denver's putting up points against them. And God, their offense is awful. But I also really like Allen here. Just Phillip Rivers throwing it around. That Oakland defense, if the Browns can do it and put up 40-plus points, so, what the Chargers could probably put up 70. So I see Keenan Allen in a big one here. Wouldn't be surprised to see him have a multiple touchdown game. But MJ's numbers are for real here. I'm going to come back to MJ here in a second as we look at Bone. On Josh's side of the house, I like Juju. I'll note here he's starting Edelman here at wide receiver. First game back Thursday night. Ought to be interesting. But I will say I like that. They're going to be looking for fresh legs. I like Edelman to hit it a lot. See if he can get back working it with Brady here. And I see Edelman to do pretty well there. Now, coming back over to MJ, one of my YouTube fans out there, I'm going to give him the fan of the week nod because, man, the dude is active. He's pushing the show. Thank you, MJ. And as such, you were asking me a question out there in social media, and you're wondering what to do at Flex this week, because you got Breda, you got some other individuals there. Let's do this. Let's go over to how do we do this? I want to be in the preview mode. Let's go down to the quick box scores. Let's see here. Kind of see what's going on your bench. Uh, Because you're asking, you got Breda here, you got others in place. Um, Melvin Gordon's an obvious start here. I completely agree there. Freeman coming back from injury here, and Breda. And then let's go down here, show the bench. Let's see what's happening. You're asking, is Collins good to go in? How about Chris Thompson? These guys can score some legit points, so wondering what to do in this matchup of Breda versus Collins versus Thompson, excuse me. Uh, I got a little bit of a different move here. I wouldn't start Freeman yet. I know against Pittsburgh, he's probably going to get some touchdowns. That Pittsburgh defense isn't that great. They're at Pittsburgh. Maybe it's a little bit of a muck and grind. Watch the weather. But I want to see what Freeman does before I start him. I'm not quite sure how healthy he'll be, how much they're going to lean on other teammates out there. Could be a pretty big passing matchup. I'd wait on Freeman because I think you got depth here. I'd be starting Breda up at wide receiver. And I'd be taking a look at Jordy Nelson, starting him at flex. Go, the run and shoot. Start 4 wide receivers. Another sneaky one here. You could also start Cook. Right now, he's the best tight end. He doesn't have huge projections, and the Chargers have a pretty good defense against tight ends. So it might not be the best matchup, but I mean, Cook toasted the Browns last weekend, and when he's on, he's on. Number 1 tight end right now. So watch. I'd be watching one of these Oakland guys, and I'd be going with Nelson, getting him into the lineup. So there you are. Anyone else out there? You got questions? You got feedback? Post them up. Questions in the chat, and we'll hit them next week. Always love getting the feedback. So thank you, MJ. You're doing yeoman's work out there. Last matchup we're gonna take a look at. Hopefully, is a real clunker because it's me, the Cleveland Steamers, versus the New York Jets. The undefeated versus the winless. A lot of check marks on the left-hand side of the screen here, as you would expect. Most projected points with the Steamers, except at the quarterback position, where, I mean, big projections for Big Ben here. I got to say, on Aisi's side of the house, that's probably the guy I like the most. I think he would probably even outperform that. On my side of the house, I'm going over here with Cousins. And with that, I'm going with the Cleveland Steamers to get this matchup. I'm going to say, Icy's got to do something here with Fournette already out. You saw big pickup with Yeldon by B there earlier. Mike's got some scrambling. Steamers got this win. And you know what? Going back here with MJ, you threw me off, dude. I wasn't quite sure what to do here with the picks, but I'm bringing it back. I'm going with MJ. MJ, you got it here. And you know what? You probably don't even need to make the bold moves that I got there. I think you got it anyway. I think Bones on the way out. My Mahomes fever has broke, and I hope all yours has as well. So with that, guys, have a great upcoming week, and I'll see you on the flip side. Be good to each other.